Yes, we should leave those words in.
And I would agree heartily.
I'm comfortable with that explanation.
Yep.
Again, it's a matter of knowing the intent of the words. It's not that obvious.
And we're getting acceptance as well of that, review. So don't remove that. Okay, next one.
The other words that I've got, and these just go to the general situation, and I'm referring to 19 under building trust and confidence.
What about your climate change?
I'll get to that in a moment. And it says CCOs will be expected to monitor and report on the delivery of these programs and their capital investment activity in a transparent and easily understood way. And I'd suggest that we add the words "and to take into account possible conflicts of interest and anti-competitive behaviour." And the reason I raise that is because that is actually happening, and it's not being dealt with in a transparent way. And I really think that it's important for the CCOs to have that message. For example, in a circumstance where ATEED is subsidising an event at an RFA facility, and that could be something of the order of many, many tens of thousands of dollars, and that is impacting on the ability of other venues to compete, both in Auckland and elsewhere, that should be obvious. And if there are conflicts of interest, and there are internal conflicts of interest in some of these entities, council-controlled organisations, then I think it's necessary to be more transparent around that. And again, I could give examples, current examples around that.
Well, there's official ways of playing about that.
Councillor Cooper.
So that's those words.
Yeah,
and
Councillor Cooper and Councillor
I'm very
Hills.
careful in the choice of words.
We're going to talk about this one. We're going to talk about
so
this
I've
one.
said possible.
Yeah, Wayne,
And then the last one is just...
Wayne,
Sure.
we're talking about this one. Councillor Cooper, Councillor Hill.
I just don't get the whole anti-competitive thing, because ATEED will often have a fund, which we all know about and is quite common all around the world, to attract a certain event or artist or whatever it is here, usually events, because RFA try to attract the artists, etc. But that is common practice. It's not anti-competitive. And at the end of the day, ATEED will often attract them here, but often it is the artist or the show that determines where they go. ATEED just want them in Auckland, and so often they'll go to the Victorine or whatever, and I don't see that as something that's directing that it has to go to one of our venues. I mean, if we take away some of what you call bidding or, fund that attracts, then often we won't get this stuff. And that's just common. I don't think it's anti-competitive, and I think we just need to be careful about it. I mean, that's Councillor Walker's view, I get it, but I'm not prepared to just have his view translated into something and then we all agree without some sort of clarification, because I don't believe it's anti-competitive. It's just common practice, and they'll often end up at Vector, and ATEED might have attracted them here, and that's not yet ours. It will be one day.
So, just in response, Mr. Chair, the wording is carefully crafted so it uses the word possible, and often this amount that's received is not generally made known to other venues. It is sometimes highly selective. So it may happen, it may not. I'm suggesting that it is happening, and it is having an impact. And we sit as Auckland Council, even though there are organisations that are part of us, like RFA and the like, that may have a particular interest in receiving some money from another part of the council.
Councillor Hills and then Councillor Simpson.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, the words sound fine, but I worry that I haven't heard proof of that. We've had these type of things come up before, and they should be coming to the Audit and Risk Committee, or they should be putting through official complaints, or I would like to know the situations being talked about rather than hearsay. And I worry passing this, we're assuming that this is happening where we don't have proof. So I think it's a bit of a worry to me. Obvious that if anti-competitive behaviour is happening and it's not right, or if there's conflicts, which we have processes for that anyway, are not being adhered to, then I'd like to know that and a process for them. But to simply put it up there as an accusation without proof, I've got serious concerns about that, and I'd like them to, those official things to come to us if they're happening.
Through you, Mr. Chair, it is not an accusation. It's,
Well, you just said that you've got lots of examples, so there must be accusation. I'm not trying to argue with that, I'm just a bit feeling...
I'm dealing with the words that I'm putting up.
Yeah.
The words are not an accusation. The words are to...
Yeah, but the words were bundled with examples of accusations you said that you had examples of. And I just would like to know what those are in a more official way before I supported something. Yeah.
Councillor Simpson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, Councillor, look, I have a little bit of a concern around this. I think if you've got a genuine concern, and it sounds like you do, I would rather be in the room when you're to chat with them about that, because I'm not sure. You talk about possible, but the fact that it's up there kind of gives the impression that it might be right, and I'm not sure that it is. So I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying potentially in the SOI, why don't we just have one of those meetings that we can have any old time with someone from RFA and talk it through and see what happens? I just don't think it's big enough to put in the SOI. That's my personal opinion.
And Councillor Cashmore?
Completely agree with Councillor Simpson. I think this level, and I understand exactly where Councillor Walker's coming from, but I think the place to do this is not through an SOI process, but through our 4 hourly meetings we have with the CCOs twice a year. That's where this level of detail and understanding needs to be driven at and get the answers from.
Okay, let's drop it, Mr. Chair.
Yep, we are. Yep, good.
And
Again, back to
the last
climate
one,
change. Yep.
And the last one just goes to climate change, and I'm just suggesting some bolt-on words at the end, and that is including scenario-based planning. And the reason that I mention that is best practice, it's IPCC and the like, and we're not doing it.
Ed?
I suspect that this is also a little bit too low level for the statement of intent, but to be really sure, I'm not a climate change planning expert, but we'd need to take advice on whether this was worth including or not from our colleagues in that area.
Councillor Darby?
Look, just probably, actually it's Councillor Holz's space, but we've both had a discussion on this, and we just want to keep it pretty simple at this level, this high level, and that is give effect to the strategic document, which I think is going to be called what, Councillor Holz? Whatever it's called, that's the document that we want them to give effect to. Low carbon action plan or its rename.
Climate change action plan.
Climate change action plan.
That sounds good.
And that's it.
Yep. Sorry, Wayne?
That's okay. One of these days it'll get up there,
Well intended, though.
but maybe under a different scenario.
Councillor Casey?
Oh yeah, it's just putting words to what I've been saying earlier. Look, the Ray Avery concert at Eden Park was a taste of the dirty politics that's going to go on into the future. I mean, it'll be a filthy debate. There's no way around it. The decision that will be made on Eden Park will be a difficult one. And I just want to warn the CCOs off. I really do. I don't think there's any part for them in this debate unless we ask for their advice. So if we ask for their advice on a given subject, that's fine. What I don't want is to open the paper and find an opinion piece by the new chair saying whatever. So that's what I'm just trying to tell them, can everybody just back off till we now do the mahi on it? That's it.
Question?
Should we also?
Bill?
Yeah, question to Alistair probably, nice simple one. The ability and independence of the CCO through the legislation to make comment, is that specifically mentioned or inferred through the legislation?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
That's any time, mate.
I don't think that there is anything specific in the legislation about that. Look, again, whether this is one that could simply be dealt with by sitting down with the Chair and Chief Executive of RFA and having a discussion how to progress this from here on. And I'll leave
So
it in
a relationship understanding rather than a directive.
It's up to you as a committee. We could get down to this level if you want, but it could. Claire, are you poised on
No, I was just through the chair, Councillor Casey, is this specific direction to RFA or is it to all councillors? Because at the moment,
And just to IFE.
it is just to us, sorry.
Maybe to ATEED, because they've stuck the nose in the past as well.
Yeah, so at the way that this is worded at the moment, this is
Just for
just to
RFA.
RFA.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, but that's Eden Park. Councillor Darby.
Oh, look, I can understand what Councillor Casey's on about here. I think when the Sunken Stadium Consortium came in, they referred to the support of RFA.
That's right.
And that's probably right in your memory, right? Yep. Except they didn't say that. I checked with RFA and they did not say that. And at the meeting I said, you are having the support of RFA in examining your proposal. And that's what a CCO does, you know, it offers some support. But I tell you what, it's not applying any great budget or resource. It is just responding to the group. And it did not say it supported that proposal, despite what that gentleman said. And he actually corrected himself at the meeting. But if you look at this, for example, imagine RFA having an open meeting and the open agenda, and they're discussing a redevelopment issue they've got out at QBE or anywhere, you know, any one of the stadia. They have to go into public excluded because they can't, because of that, they can't talk publicly.
Yep.
So we're actually shutting them up. We're shutting them away. We actually do want them to be inclusive of us and Aucklanders. So I don't think it's very smart. I know we've got some challenges in that area, but let's move forward and do it together.
If I could, through the chair, Bram has just brought to my attention the Regional Facilities Auckland Deed of Trust, and I'll just read from it. Development and operation of regional facilities to promote, operate, develop and maintain and to hold and manage interests and rights in relation to regional facilities throughout Auckland, and to promote and coordinate strategic planning in relation to the ongoing development and operation of such facilities. So it's kind of in their trust deed that this is their role. I understand the frustration with the public debate, and which is why perhaps I'm suggesting that a discussion with the chair and the chief executive, how that might be managed and coordinated going forward, might be the best way to deal with this.
And whilst I said on Tuesday that RFA were going to come on the 29th of November, following the resolution that we passed the other day, is they probably won't come now because we've said it's subject to further debate, resolution of Eden Park. So the Eden Park briefing will come back, but there's a chance that they may not be coming back to us in November because we have told them you can't do anything. Right? So
That's ridiculous.
yeah, I know, but I'm just it's not finalised yet. We haven't talked to them. Got to find out. So,
There's a dog and there's a tail, right?
and there's okay. Well, okay, so I mean, I think this is basically. I think this is out of order. Is effectively what Bram's saying is this is out of order. So
You're suggesting where the
we're going to remove that. Any further amendments anyone has?
Dog with a tail.
I just wanted to comment on
Yep, Councillor Newman.
on what, is that up or gone now?
Well, it's just gone, but you can comment.
Oh, well, I was going
There
to
it is,
say.
there it is, it's back.
Oh, excellent. I was going to say, I mean, one of the reasons why I wanted them to come and meet with us is the statement in their quarterly report referencing the big bid, the big mega bid that's coming for the National Cricket Stadium oval at Western Springs that I'm now receiving letters about, and I'd be very interested to talk to RFA. When will we be able to talk to them if we're not talking to them then?
Would be in the new year then, effectively. Matthew, you got
The
any
direction
comment you
setting
wanna-
for the annual plans before then.
We've only had 5 years.
Okay, let Matthew please just also.
So through the chair, I think what people are trying to do here is reflect on the resolution a couple of days ago, and based on reflecting that, work out what's appropriate. The resolution seems to be reflecting the notion that you need and want to have an all-in discussion on Stadia. And I'm not to talk for the chair, but I think he's needing to reflect on whether, therefore, it's still appropriate for RFA to come forward and talk about Western Springs. I think that's all he's saying. It's over for you to discuss that. I think he's just trying to work out what he does.
No, the issue was the matters that are set out in the first quarter report from Regional Facilities Auckland, which we haven't discussed, which we haven't had an opportunity to canvass with the board and the Chief Executive of Regional Facilities Auckland about those matters set out in that quarterly report, which was included, amongst other things, about their activities. And I think that given that that is a quarterly report from the first quarter, I think to meet with them sometime in the new year is not appropriate.
Good practice. After the second quarter's finished.
Well, I don't know when we're going to meet, but we still have the unresolved issue of the quarterly report and the need to properly discuss that matter.
The year you've been quarter 3.
Okay, so looking at
We will be in quarter 3 if we're in the new year.
I'm hearing you. I guess we were reflecting on the resolution in a different way.
Well,
You're talking about the Q1 reporting. I hear you.
Well, it wasn't a matter that I raised on Tuesday, actually. It was a matter that was raised
I see. Yep.
sometime previous to that, because actually RFA weren't at the meeting. We were supposed to consider the quarterly report.
We can resolve today that we want to meet with them. It's just ridiculous.
Well, I think this is out of line, but we're hearing what you're saying, and we'll be trying to get there. I'm actually just noticing a little bit of a problem there, but anyway. Phil.
I'm not trying to put words into Daniel's mouth, but I think what he was after might be fair, and that is a coordinated work plan over the next short while, so we can start looking at all the information and what the decision-making processes might be. Is that about it?
We've got a backlog of work that we need to address, and I think it's actually our administrative requirement to address that.
Yep.
What is the mechanism, Chair? And I'm sure that you'll have an answer very soon.
Anyone else?
No, I have sympathy with what Daniel's saying, and I think we've only had a couple of days.
Yep.
And it's been full on, so let's.
Yep.
I think we would undertake through you as Chair of Finance Performance to actually come back with a bit of a work plan between now and when Council finishes, and very early in the new year to actually nut this through. It has to be resolved, and it has to be resolved as soon as possible.
Yeah.
It wasn't the only quarterly report, but it's probably the most urgent at the moment.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, speaking to that,
Yep.
one of the difficulties going historically is actually just scheduling time in the diary. If you already have some times that are scheduled, I think they should be held, but I wholeheartedly support the request by Councillor Newman to have some structure in the relationship if we are to be able to utilise our CCOs in a meaningful way.
I think he's probably a buddy.
Okay. Now, what's happened now?
Before March.
Okay, sorry, oh no, we're back again. Okay, right, we have those there. I'm happy to move all of those. You have a seconder? Councillor who, sorry? Simpson, sorry, I didn't see. Yep, Councillor Simpson.
Have we got the one about not commenting? Which
No,
ones are we adding?
this is it, no.
No, it's
no,
not.
no, no.
Good, okay.
We're not
Right,
commenting.
so we've had agreement before, so I'm going to put all those in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Everyone's happy. Thank you very much, folks. Nothing else, guys? Thank you, team, and thank you for sitting there pretty well all day on Tuesday and then coming back.
It's quite all right. It's probably a bit late now. Chair, but there was a recommendation around nominating delegates to attend a CCO board meeting to discuss the LOEs.
We haven't closed, guys, and this doesn't need necessarily, we can come back on this, but
So you want
Alistair's-
nominations?
Yeah, and I guess
Sorry, can you remind us again what you were saying?
What about, sorry, there may not be a need for nominations because it could be staff. This will be the
Yes.
first time we've done this, so Alistair, start again, please.
Yeah, look, through some of the discussions we've had over the statement of intent and letter of expectation process, there was a bit of feedback that there's not enough direct face-to-face communication between the boards and us as council as to what our expectations are. We put up there a recommendation around delegating off representatives to not only send a letter of expectation, but to front up to the respective CCO boards and discuss through in a bit more detail what those expectations are. We were suitably neutral in our recommendations as to whether those representatives would be staff or councillors. Would be interested in your thoughts or your decisions as to whether you would want us as staff to go do that on your behalf, or whether some of you as councillors would like to undertake that role yourselves. But we haven't done this before.
As Chair, my preference is that it would be staff, I have to say. I just think it would be best,
I think so.
because these things can get political in their own right, and it's not appropriate. I think it needs neutrality.
Exactly.
If staff need a bit of support,
I'm happy
I'd
to
be up
help.
for it.
That's the resolution.
But we don't know what you guys are going to say, whereas we know the staff.
Thank you,
will
folks.
say exactly
The
what we've
meeting
said
is
here.
closed.
Thank you, Mr Chair.